In the previous episode, the Salvatore brothers discovered the secret of the bloodline. If an original is killed, their entire vampire lineage will perish. They now must investigate which original they are descended from. To save Damon, Stefan confessed the truth to Klaus and handed him the stake. However, they still need to retrieve the last white oak stake, the weapon capable of eliminating the originals. The white oak stake has fallen into Alaric's hands, but the stake was hidden away by another dark personality within him. To force this dark personality to emerge, Alaric insists that Stefan go all out and hit him hard. Alaric even removes his resurrection ring, convinced that the dark personality will protect itself. It's a dangerous gamble. At first, Stefan couldn't bring himself to hit hard, and the sight of blood made him even more hesitant and restrained.
Listen, you want the answers from my darkest side, you're gonna have to tap into yours. So don't back down. Don't fight it.
Under Alaric's relentless goading, Stefan finally strikes him with all his might. Alaric let out a sinister laugh, and his dark personality finally came out. Meanwhile, Cole killed Mary before Damon and Elena could arrive, severing the bloodline clue. Klaus's official orders have been executed. Now it's time for personal business. Damon has killed Cole twice before, yet Cole has only broken a few of Damon's bones, which could be considered quite merciful.
Now we're even.
One moment, the dark Alaric is confidently cursing Stefan, but the next, a few heavy punches from Stefan force him to reveal the location of the white oak stake. Able to adapt, cunning, and deceitful, he's definitely a tough opponent. Just as Stefan prepares to contact Klaus, the Michelson siblings arrive.
That wasn't too hard, was it?
On the other side, after Cole left, Elena went up to check on Damon. Damon's bones made a resounding sound as they reformed. One can only imagine the tragedy. When their eyes meet, Elena's gaze shifts away, clearly unwilling to acknowledge their relationship.
What are you doing?
What do you mean?
Well, what the hell is this?
Damon is left baffled. Elena really is greedy. Just like Catherine, she wants both Salvatore brothers. Stefan is willing to risk everything, while Damon prefers a more direct approach.
I'm sorry, Elena, but this time I'm not gonna make it so easy for you. This time you'll have to figure it out for yourself.
For once, the Salvatore brothers, who have always let Elena control their romantic entanglement, are finally pushing her to make a choice in their own ways. The last white oak stake was hidden by Alaric in a cave protected by a boundary spell. To prevent any tricks from Alaric, Rebecca goes with him. Cole has cut off the bloodline trail, and the last white oak stake is nearly in his hands. Klaus is very pleased, feeling that everything is under his control. Stefan now has nothing left to fear. Klaus has been repeatedly outmaneuvered and provoked by Stefan, yet he hasn't killed him because he still hopes Stefan might return to being the cold, ruthless ripper he once was. On the way back, Elena and Damon have fallen into a cold war. Jeremy doesn't dare to speak or ask questions. Rose's ghost quietly informs Jeremy that Elena and Damon had a huge fight. Rose knows that Jeremy has his reservations about Damon, but she tells him that Elena hasn't just changed Damon, Damon has changed Elena as well. Damon has brought excitement into Elena's life.
He makes her question her life, beliefs. Stefan is different. His love is pure. He'll always be good for her. Damon is either the best thing for her.
Rose's assessment is spot on. When it comes to romance, Damon is more suited for Elena than Stefan. Meanwhile, Tyler finds the flowers Klaus sent to Caroline, which stirs up jealousy within him. Caroline, however, doesn't take it seriously and even compliments Klaus on his charm. Faced with Tyler's aggressive questioning, Caroline remains confident in her feelings, but Caroline underestimates a man's possessiveness. After retrieving the white oak stake, Alaric hides in the cave, refusing to come out. Knowing the boundary spell can keep the originals at bay, Rebecca, unfazed, calmly asks Alaric what he wants. Alaric presents his terms, saying the stake can kill one of the originals, but only if Rebecca helps him.
Tenuous, but points for effort. You see, I don't want one original to die.
To his shock, Rebecca steps into the boundary, and Alaric immediately panics.
After all, my son did use your body at one point.
You're not Rebecca.
No. My name is Esther, and we have a great deal in common.
It turns out Esther has taken over Rebecca's body, and she used a fake white oak stake to deceive Klaus. Upon learning that Klaus plans to leave town today, Esther insists on attending tonight's ball to buy some time. In Rebecca's voice, Esther sweet-talks Klaus. Esther knows her son too well. She knows Klaus dotes on his sister above all. Meanwhile, the dark Alaric deceives Damon by claiming he's leaving town for a few days and insists that he's been taking his meds regularly. Damon furrows his brow. This doesn't sound like Alaric at all. Esther prepares to return to her original body, and Alaric plunges a dagger into Rebecca's heart, awakening Esther from her coffin. They then head to an ancient tomb where Esther melts down Alaric's resurrection ring and infuses it into the final white oak stake. The previous white oak stakes were one-time use, but this silver-veined white oak stake can be used indefinitely. The school is hosting a 1920s-themed ball tonight, and Elena is still unsure whom to choose as her date. Caroline suggests she picks Stefan and speaks up for him, saying that Stefan has been ignored recently and deserves a chance.
Yeah, but
nothing. I've watched The Bachelor. Okay, fair is fair. It is Stefan's turn. Stefan is your epic love.
Caroline's suggestion makes sense, so Elena calls Stefan and invites him to the ball tonight. Hearing this, Stefan's face lights up, and the gloom from before is instantly lifted. Their conversation was overheard by Damon, who remarked in a melancholic tone,
I'm thinking gardenia corsage. Wrist, obviously. You don't want to accidentally stab her in the chest with the pin. That could get messy.
Damon,
Damon is really gentle. Damon had to find something to do. He discovered that Alaric had not taken his medication on time, which meant that the person he had spoken to this morning was the dark personality. Stefan, following Damon's advice, makes a gardenia corsage for Elena. Their eyes meet, full of affection. It's that fluttering feeling again, as if everything has gone back to the beginning. At the ball, Tyler shows up uninvited. Caroline scolds him, asking if he's lost his mind, worried about what Klaus might do if he finds out. Tyler, however, stands his ground. He's put up with a lot, but the thought of Klaus having feelings for Caroline is something he just can't ignore. Elena and Stefan are dancing passionately when Damon suddenly approaches with a serious expression. Their departure catches Jeremy's attention, and as he follows them, he unexpectedly runs into Bonnie. Bonnie is now dating Jamie, which comes as a blow to Jeremy. Damon believes that Alaric is beyond saving and that it's better to end his suffering before he can cause more harm. Overhearing this, Jeremy immediately objects. To him, Alaric is more than a mentor, he's like a father and a friend. Elena quickly chases after Jeremy to comfort him, but they are interrupted by the sudden appearance of Esther. Jeremy rushes off to get help. When they return, Elena is nowhere to be found, and a boundary spell has been set, trapping the Salvatore brothers. Meanwhile, Bonnie and Jamie are about to get intimate when Damon barges in, urgently seeking Bonnie's help. When Elena confronts Alaric, she realizes Damon was right, he has fully succumbed to darkness. But having the ultimate weapon isn't enough. Esther intends to create the ultimate hunter, one who is stronger, faster, and indestructible. Esther plans to turn Alaric into a vampire of the original's caliber. Elena thinks Esther is insane. What if Alaric loses control? His dark side alone is already unimaginably evil, but Esther is confident that Alaric won't. It turns out that every time Alaric has briefly died, his soul lingered in the spiritual realm, where Esther continuously fed him thoughts of hatred toward vampires. Alaric was Esther's carefully crafted weapon of vengeance all along. Alaric then drinks the potion laced with Elena's blood.
Is it finished?
Not just yet.
Meanwhile, back at the ball, Caroline and Tyler are dancing when Klaus interrupts, trying to take Caroline for himself. Though Tyler has already broken his sire bond, he's forced to let Klaus have Caroline to avoid exposing himself. Klaus plans to leave town tomorrow, making this his final attempt to win Caroline's heart, but she rejects him once again. After the dance, Klaus notices that Rebecca hasn't shown up at the ball. As he prepares to leave, he realizes the venue is also bound by a spell. Stefan explains the situation to him. Esther is not dead, because Bonnie couldn't break the boundary in time. Klaus used Jamie's life as leverage to motivate her. As they wait for Alaric to awaken, Esther tells Elena that Alaric won't be like the other originals. His sole purpose is to hunt vampires, and once that mission is complete, Alaric will die. The boundary spell doesn't affect humans, so Jeremy and Matt are the first to arrive, but humans are no match for a witch. With a mere thought, Esther forces them to turn their weapons on each other. In a critical moment, Esther is suddenly attacked from behind by the newly awakened Alaric. This time, it's his good personality that's in control.
Tell me what happened.
In front of the boundary, Klaus and Stefan reminisced about the past. Their current state as both enemies and friends makes Klaus long for the days of the 1920s.
Not to be, territorial or anything.
Oh no, of course. The Salvators and their unshakable bond.
Klaus then mocks Stefan and Damon, using Elena as a jab. He wonders who Elena will ultimately choose, and if that choice will slowly chip away at their brotherly bond. The Salvatore brothers remain silent. At this time Bonnie told them that Esther's power had disappeared, and the spell naturally dissolved. Afterward, they decide to keep the white oak stake a secret from Klaus. As long as Alaric doesn't drink human blood, he won't fully transform into the original's hunter, but the price is his life. Elena and Jeremy both take turns hugging Alaric, saying their goodbyes. Everyone gathers to see Alaric off.
Forget the way beside you. Be still, know I am.
Tears glisten in Alaric's eyes as he forces a smile before resolutely entering the tomb to await his death. Meanwhile, Klaus retrieves his mother's corpse. Aware that her soul is indestructible, he taunts her lifeless body, boasting that her plan has failed once again and that he will build an army. He is the most powerful of the originals, yet he spends his days struggling to survive. That night, everyone is in a somber mood. Jeremy and Matt drink together. Elena busies herself sorting through Alaric's belongings, not wanting to stop. It's Stefan who patiently comforts her. Stefan may not be able to offer Elena the exciting life that Damon does, but his love is warm and gentle. Damon is absent because he wanted to have one last drink with Alaric. This time, Damon sincerely apologizes for having killed him twice. Alaric grows weaker, tears streaming down his face. Who wouldn't want to live if given the choice? He takes a deep swig of strong liquor. Meanwhile, Bonnie has a nightmare. Esther demands that she fulfill an unfinished vow. As Alaric neared death, slipping into a sleep-like state, Damon couldn't bear to watch any longer and downed the rest of the drink. As Damon exits the tomb, he's surprised to see Bonnie arriving. Looking like a lifeless shell, Damon was so overwhelmed by Bonnie's headache that he collapsed. Bonnie then slashed her own palm and fed her blood to Alaric, completing the final step of his transformation. The strongest vampire in history is born. The now mad and savage Alaric withstands the burning sun and abducts Caroline. Just minutes earlier, Caroline had gone to the school to clean up the mess from the previous night, only to find that Rebecca, freshly resurrected, had also come to tidy up. Alaric is hiding in the school, having turned into a vampire. He has no home to return to. Caroline and Rebecca join forces against Alaric, driving the white oak stake into his heart, but he emerges unscathed. This alone proves that Alaric has surpassed the originals. He is the ultimate vampire. A panicked Caroline and Rebecca each make a run for it, but to their horror, Alaric chases after them under the scorching sun. Even though his entire body is smoking, he charges forward relentlessly. Rebecca was terrified by the demon-like Alaric, and the only thought in her mind was to escape. She immediately tells Klaus about the situation, hoping to flee together, but Klaus insists on taking Elena with him. He needs her blood to create his hybrid army. Rebecca, utterly disappointed in her brother, decides to leave on her own. Meanwhile, Damon uses his blood to heal Bonnie. When Bonnie wakes up, she informs the Salvatore brothers that Esther had controlled her to complete Alaric's transformation. It didn't take long before Klaus showed up, wanting to take Elena with him, but the Salvatore brothers simply ignored him and closed the door on him. Little do they know, Elena isn't there. Alaric had called her to the school. At the school, Alaric is torturing Caroline, her hands pinned to a desk with pencils. Alaric gestures for Elena to go ahead, as if giving her permission. Elena assumes he still retains some humanity. Just as Elena was about to free Caroline, Alaric changed his mind. He went back on his word because he wanted to teach Elena a lesson.
Stop trusting vampires!
Klaus can't get in, and those inside can't get out. During the stalemate, Klaus had a brainstorm. If melee combat doesn't work, you can always use ranged combat. While Klaus and Damon were facing off, Stefan received a call from Alaric. Wrecking the house no longer satisfies Klaus. He somehow procures a gas tank, threatening to blow the place up if they don't come out. Stefan is forced to reveal that Elena is with Alaric. Reluctantly, both sides agree to put aside their differences and join forces against Alaric. After all, if Klaus dies, the Salvatore brothers have a 25% chance of dying with him. As they discuss their plan, Bonnie recalls something. Years ago, her mother used a desiccation spell to seal Michael away for 15 years. If she can learn it, she could use it against Alaric. The plan seems viable, so Bonnie reaches out to her mother, Abby, Abby warns her that the desiccation spell is a dark and evil magic. Bonnie's soul is still pure, but if she uses this spell, her soul will be banished to the spiritual realm after she dies. But there's no time for second thoughts. Abby reluctantly reveals the spell's key to seal a vampire's heart. Bonnie must sacrifice a living human. Jeremy's resurrection ring came in handy. Damon didn't want to risk Jeremy, though. He could just grab any human and put the ring on him, but Jeremy insisted on his own opinion.
Fine. Be stubborn. Try not to kill him, William.
With the sacrificial vessel chosen, Bonnie now needs a way to connect with Alaric's heart. Bonnie gives her blood to Damon, Stefan, and Klaus, each taking a sip. If any of them can touch Alaric's blood, Bonnie will be able to cast the spell remotely. Klaus reminds the Salvatore brothers that they all share his bloodline.
And Tyler's life, Caroline's life, and of course, Abby's life, should anything go wrong.
Though it may be just bluster, the Salvatore brothers aren't willing to take that gamble. Meanwhile, at the school, Alaric was giving Elena a hands-on lesson on how to kill a vampire, but Elena burned him with vervain instead. This allows Caroline to break free. Klaus was the first to find Caroline, and his dominance and tenderness made Caroline's heart flutter. At the same time, Alaric grabs Elena by the throat, threatening that he should have killed her long ago.
If you want me dead, then kill me!
Elena's words provoke Alaric, but in the end, he holds back. Could it be that Alaric still has some humanity left? The Salvatore brothers launch a pincer attack to subdue Alaric, but in the blink of an eye, Alaric turns the tables on them, easily overpowering them. They are simply not on the same level. Klaus is the only one still capable of putting up a fight. He drives his fingers into Alaric's body. At the same time, Bonnie begins the spell using Jeremy as a conduit, but the connection is abruptly severed. Alaric has snapped Klaus's hand and knocked him back. The battle is a total failure. Klaus is utterly defeated by Alaric. With the ultimate hunter wielding the ultimate weapon, it seems Klaus's death is inevitable. In a desperate move, Elena holds a knife to her own throat and threatens Alaric to stop. Klaus cannot die. It turns out Elena has seen through Esther's plan. Esther had mentioned that Alaric could never be immortal, and coupled with the fact that Alaric hasn't killed her, she understands the truth.
She didn't want you to be immortal, so she tied your life to a human one. Mine. That way you have only one lifespan to kill all vampires and then you'll be gone.
Alaric refuses to admit it, but his body tenses. When Elena slashed her own throat, Alaric was completely terrified. He angrily shouted at Elena to stop. Klaus seizes the moment to break free and rescues Elena. When Elena wakes up, she finds a nurse drawing her blood. Klaus is deeply saddened, admitting that if he had a choice, he wouldn't do this, but to eliminate the ultimate vampire Alaric, he has no choice but to drain Elena of her blood. This scene is witnessed by Tyler. Tyler initially plans to rescue Elena, but Klaus stops him. Klaus orders Tyler to fetch more blood bags, and though Tyler pretends to comply, he actually goes to get help. Elena's blood is drained bag after bag, and she begins to lose consciousness. Klaus bluntly tells her that she's the one who's come between the Salvatore brothers. Once she makes her choice, it will destroy their relationship. On the other side, Alaric woke up the unconscious Salvatore brothers, and they were both bewildered. Not only is Alaric not dead, but he urges them to go save Elena. Stefan is skeptical, pointing out that Klaus is the last person who would kill Elena. Alaric is forced to reveal the truth. His life is tied to Elena's. Alaric can only act after sunset, so the task of saving Elena falls to the Salvatore brothers. Indeed, there are no permanent enemies and no permanent friends, but the Salvatore brothers are always fighting for Elena. Tyler soon returns, planning to secretly free Elena, but Klaus catches him in the act. It's then that Klaus realizes Tyler has broken his sire bond. Klaus backhands Elena, sending her crashing to the floor. Just as Klaus is about to finish off Tyler, the Salvatore brothers arrive and together, they manage to restrain Klaus. Stefan drives his fingers into Klaus's body. At the same time, Bonnie casts the desiccation spell from a distance. Klaus would never have imagined that the spell intended to seal Alaric would now be used against him. Klaus's heartbeat slows, and in disbelief, he looks at Stefan, then Tyler. "You've betrayed me again," he says. Klaus's eyes fill with fear and sorrow. Stefan, under Klaus's gaze, even feels a pang of guilt. With the sun still up, Alaric can't cause any trouble yet, so the Salvatore brothers take Elena home first. Elena finally confesses her fears. She knew she had been selfish, hesitating to make a choice because she realized that no matter which one of them she chose, she would lose the other.
And I've lost so many people, I can't bear the thought of losing one of you.
from Elena's perspective, it is indeed difficult to choose. As both brothers are so outstanding, the Salvatore brothers decide to deal with Klaus's body first and give Elena some time to think.